Hi, everybody. I am Rachel McKenna. I'm Innovation and Business Development Manager for Sirane Limited. And today I'm going to talk about sustainable packaging materials for the bakery sector, the material availability and applications for Bakery Live 2023. In terms of where we are based, we have 3 sites in Telford. We have our head offices, head of sort of R&D area where we have all our development facilities. We are so where we are based in, well, I'm based in Telford in Shropshire, and we have 3 sites that are based in Telford. We have the predominantly absorbency unit and head offices where I am sat currently. We then have a board facility and we have a flexible packaging unit as well. In terms of manufacturing, we then also manufacture in the US, we manufacture in Mexico and in the Czech Republic. And the types of materials that we manufacture in these facilities are really generally based on local market demand. Besides this, we have sales teams that sit in different areas of the world, as shown on the map. When we look at our areas of specialism, very broadly, we can split it out into 3 categories. So we have absorbency, board, and flexible packaging. Within absorbency, we're able to offer everything from soaker pads through to pads that can be used in food applications, for example, putting under a meat product, through to a theatre mat that would be used in an operating theatre. We offer eco alternatives within this range as well. We then have board products where we offer coated and laminated boards. We are able to provide either printed or plain solutions, and we have eco-friendly options also within the range. We then have flexible packaging, so this is everything from film on the reel through to various types of pouches, and we have eco-friendly options including our printing. We use an entirely water-based system for our flexible packaging. And we're able to offer different types of print technology as well. So water-based, flexo, and also digital offset. Looking at how we are able to support the bakery sector, which you're obviously all interested in today, we see the business as a bit of a jigsaw puzzle. So we can split out how much we help a customer essentially, and we can help with as little or as much as that customer would like. So we can help with conversion of materials. This includes commodity and sustainable materials. We can provide printing technologies in-house. We print with water-based flexo. We also have digital offset capabilities as well in-house. Within my team, I have an applications engineer. He will provide machinery support. So this is everything from, particularly with transition to more sustainable materials, this would be looking at existing assets, making sure that those machines can run the new materials, or whether there are changes that are needed before a customer goes to the point of trial. Alongside this, once it gets to a trial stage, you can go in and offer support and be on site to support those trials, or via Teams. For smaller companies where there's not so many people involved within a team, we can help with artwork design and following through that process for smaller companies. And then obviously my main role is leading the new product development for the business. So we can help with all aspects of new product development from concept through to commercialisation. Looking at sustainable materials and the types of materials that we have available, we have biopolymers and we have natural fibres, and these are the 2 material sources that we use to produce our sustainable materials. So the solution essentially is specialist bio-based coatings. These are water-derived materials. We use specialist fibre substrates and bring those together to make earth packaging. Looking at sustainable materials very broadly, we can split them into two further categories. So we have our earth packaging. This is paper and board-derived barrier solutions. We offer a range of different solutions with different barrier requirements because not every single application needs the highest barrier, and that's why we offer lots of different varieties. The materials themselves, we are members of APRL and they are classed as recyclable for the consumer at home. So if you're a member of APRL, you can put the recycled logo on them. We were formerly accredited as plastic free by Plastic Planet, and we now look at the plastic free definition in a slightly different way, which I will go into in later slides. The other option that we have available, and this is a recyclable plastic solution, is what we call our repeat film. So this is materials that are derived from LDPE. We can convert them into a range of different formats. So that can either be film on the reel, pouches, insulated bags, which you can see in the middle, or it could go into any sort of pouch format. The materials themselves, they are recyclable with carrier bags at larger stores. Just going back to the earth packaging now, so the full picture of this solution, we have the pure cellulose substrates that are going in and the cellulose starch-based coatings to make the earth packaging. We then have two possible routes that these materials could go down in terms of end-of-life scenario. So we have recyclability, and this obviously provides a more circular system for those materials, or we have certain substrates that are suitable for compostability. Just to give a little bit more detail on these types of fibre substrates that we use, they are FSC certified. We use virgin fibre materials, and this is generally because of food contact approval. Certain substrates within the range are carbon balanced by the World Land Trust also. And another solution that we have for the materials as well is to look at natural degradation. So again, we will complete biodegradability on suitable substrates. So typically we will test those materials over a 30 and a 60-day period at different temperatures and look at how those materials break down over that time. So looking at accreditation and different test standards, we, as I mentioned earlier, were formally accredited as plastic free by Plastic Planet. If a customer would like to put a plastic free definition behind it, we now look towards the internationally recognised ASTM standard. When we look at recyclability, it obviously depends which area of the world we're selling into. As I shared in previous slides, we do provide materials into the US. We also look at the EU and further markets. So typically for the US market, we would test materials to the Western Michigan University standard. And typically for European markets, we would look at testing against EN 13430. With compostability, we then have two possible routes that materials could be tested to. So this is industrial compostability and home compostability. We certainly see that there is more demand for compostability in areas such as Australasia rather than in Europe, where we see that recyclability tends to be the preferred option for end of life just because of the more advanced infrastructure for recycling. So now just looking at solutions, when we look at earthboard, we have a wide range of materials that we can offer that are recyclable. So we have cake boards that you can see in the left and the right hand image. These can be custom printed or printed with a block colour. Purely depends on what the customer is looking for. We're able to offer these in a 6 to 12 inch diameter board. Typically they are circular, but we can offer different shapes as well. It purely depends on what the customer is looking for. And approximate thicknesses for these types of materials is 1.5 and 3 millimetres. And in the middle of the screen, you can see a cake drum. So this is our Earthboard Eco Cake Drum. This again is recyclable. Typically, it's an 6 to 18-inch diameter, again, circular board, but can be provided as square. They are in a range of thicknesses from 3 to 6 mil. And you can see the difference. They're obviously much more suited for a heavier cake, such as a fruit cake. Looking at a case study now for our earth film and earth pouch materials, at the top right-hand side of the screen, you can see what we call our Earth Pouch Supreme. This is a strip substrate that we have developed that's suitable for ovenable applications. It is approved for use to 220 degrees for 30 minutes. We can also print this material with our water-based ovenable inks. They have been approved for customers by Smithers Pyra, and we're able to offer that in either a reel or 3-side seal pouch format. The second material that you can see at the bottom of the slide is Earth Pouch Duo. That is a nearly fully translucent pouch. The gusset will just be a solid base, so either a white or a brown rib craft finish. As you can see, it gives very good clarity for product, and would be suitable for if you had perhaps a confectionery type product or cookies where you want the consumer to be able to see that product when they're buying it off the shelves. So looking now at a case study of combining materials, where we can, we certainly look to bring together different materials from our earth packaging range. So with this particular solution, we are using our earth board with our earth film, and we have window patched the material into the skillet as a replacement for the traditional PP line solution. This particular product is suitable for delis and sandwiches that are going to be eaten on the day, prepared and eaten on the day that they're made. They can be either stuck with a little sticker, or we can also do a tabbed option, provide a tabbed option as well. But it's a really good example of where we're trying to bring together different materials to form one finished solution. Looking at the development window for Earth Wedge, we start at brief and feasibility, and we work all the way through to commercialisation. So when we look at these materials at the brief and feasibility stage, as I mentioned in the previous slides, we were looking to replace the PP lined sandwich skillets that you see in the market currently. With these materials, you have to separate the lining on the skillet itself from the board to be able to recycle it. Personally, I don't know of many people that would actually go to that effort to separate the materials, and they are quite difficult to separate as well, if you've ever tried. When we were looking at developing this, we had a site visit from Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstall as well, and that kind of spurred on this development even further, because he was very enthusiastic about the fact that this was an alternative to a very commonly used material where we see that there is an issue with materials not being recycled. At the next stage, we move on to product concept. When we look at product concept, we're looking at the types of materials that we're going to use for that development, what is suitable. Do we need to apply different coatings onto the papers? Do we need to look at the types of glues that we're using to window patch? There's lots of different variables. What's the performance of the board? So there's lots of different materials that we had to look at this stage to see what would be suitable to move this development forward. We, at this stage, generate CAD samples. We would do an initial organoleptic assessment. So we would look at the product brought from store, and we would repack it in the skillets versus a standard sandwich skillet. And across the shelf life, we would look at how that material performs. What's the how does the bread perform? Is it drying out? Is there certain fillings which seem to be drying out we would look at all those types of things at this stage. What we would also look to do is put together a draft data sheet for what would be finished products. So we'd start to put something together that obviously could be open to changes as it moves further along the development process. We then look at the scale up of the materials. So we would look at window patching trials, we would make production made board skillets, and we would complete a further organoleptic assessment with those materials. We would look at finalising the commercials of the products. So I forgot to mention at the product concept stage, we are obviously looking at pricing and what that finished solution would be. When we get to scale up, we're looking to finalise that so that we've got commercial prices for the product that we're launching. We look at recyclability testing, and at the bottom of the right-hand side of the screen, you can see a hand sheet. This has been made from the skillet that's been sent for recycling. So you can see that there are some blue dots on that hand sheet, and that is because the sample that was sent for repulping was printed blue. But essentially that hand sheet just shows that the fibres from the repulp of the material could be made into another product and go back through the process. We then look finally at finalising those data sheets so that we're able to share them with customers. And then we have a commercialised product, which you can see in the top right-hand corner. And just some further solutions where we are able to support the customers. So we formally brought the Terranex brand, and we are able to offer 12 micron PET bags that can be used in airlines, for example, to heat part-baked rolls. We are able to offer those with PCR content as well. We then have patisserie boards that are available tabbed, embossed, with scalloped edges. It just depends on what the customer's looking for. We have U cards and J cards. These can be provided as ovenable and heat resistant options also. Typically they are 400 to 500 micron thickness, and suitable for everything from a pasty that you can see there through to sausage rolls, brownies, lots of different applications. When we look at the flexible packaging market, we also see that there is huge demand for e-commerce solutions. So again, similarly to the earth wedge, we're looking at combining different solutions together. So this is our earth pouch inside an earth board letterbox size solution, which can go through the letterbox without having to pay additional fees for postage. So it will just go straight through, and you can do a letterbox service to a customer. We then also offer cake collars. These are grease and moisture resistant. Typically we would supply them as a white finish, but they can also be provided with colour, and we're able to provide heat sealable options for that solution also. Thank you for listening. We're certainly here to help as a business. It may be that you haven't quite seen the solution that you're looking for, but as I said, development is really core to our business. So please feel free to get in touch, and we're more than happy to help you.
Thank you so much, Rachel, for delivering that presentation all on packaging here at Bakery Live. What made you want to talk about this topic in particular?
As a business, we provide, as I said in my slides, we provide solutions for lots of different sectors. And at this point in time, there's definitely a huge drive for sustainable materials across all areas. So we wanted to just present and probably refresh people on what we're able to offer as a business and how we're able to support them.
When it comes to food packaging, obviously there are a lot of challenges with sustainable packaging. When you were looking at materials, what in particular were you looking for, and what criteria were you using?
We do look at the materials themselves, how they repulp. what the structure of those materials are, what are the components of the materials, to make sure that the end goal essentially is that we can have a finished solution where it is recyclable or it is compostable, and it's very clear to the consumer what happens with that particular product when it gets to the end of its use. So that is definitely key for us from the beginning of the development process through to commercialisation, that we know the nature of those materials to be able to provide something that when it's a finished product, we can present to the customer. It's been tested for recyclability, and we look at that as part of the development process. And it's very clear what the consumer needs to do, because I think you need to be clear to a consumer to make sure that they know how that material needs to be disposed of.
I think that's a good point. Do you think that consumers are aware enough about how to recycle packaging or how to compost packaging? Do you think there's enough awareness with what they need to do once they have that packaging to make sure that it isn't wasted and discarded when it could be recycled?
Yes, I think particularly with the work from OPRL and the use of the way that the retailers are using the OPRL labels on the back of packaging, that makes it very clear. And certainly consumers are taking more of an interest in the types of materials that packaging is made from and how that needs to be disposed of. And I think they're a lot more invested probably than 10 or so years ago in what are those materials, understanding how you can recycle them and what that process looks like. Certainly when we look at materials, we see that there is a lot of confusion about compostable materials and biodegradable materials versus recycling, particularly with compostability. When you look at the actual compostability testing has to be completed under such defined conditions, and really it's probably a little bit of a unclear area, really. Sorry, I've completely fluffed that.
No, don't worry about it. Would you like to do the question again?
Yes, please.
Okay, no problem.
That's okay, thank you.
Do you think consumers are aware enough about how to recycle packaging, whether this is at home or whether they need to do it at a supermarket? Would you say there's enough awareness?
I think consumers are definitely more interested and engaged in the materials and having an understanding of how they can be recycled. Classifications such as OPRL, where you're able to put a label very clearly on the back of pack, that certainly helps to give a clear message on what you can do with that material once you've finished with it and once you've consumed the product itself. I think also when you go around the different supermarkets, you can see that there are collection points for materials, and they're trying to make it very clear as soon as you walk in the store exactly what you can do with those materials. The difference when we look at sort of recyclability, compostability and biodegradability, I think there's still some confusion around how those sort of schemes work and the sort of temperatures that are needed to break those materials down, whether it's reflective of somebody putting it in a compost bin at home. It will take much longer to break down than it would under those controlled conditions. So I think certainly is more interest from consumers, but when we look particularly at a European market, we are seeing that recyclability is really where people are wanting to go because we've got that better infrastructure. Not to say that in the UK, every council has got different things that they recycle, which doesn't help. But certainly we're trying, I think, to get the message across that we need to improve the types of materials and the amount of materials that we're recycling.
I know when I've moved and I've gone to somewhere different in the UK, different. some parts you can recycle everything, and other parts it all goes in one bag. So I think definitely your point about the information being different, I can see how that would confuse people. there is a point as well about infrastructure, which you mentioned. What are the challenges posed by infrastructure or a lack thereof? Some recycling streams more sophisticated in some countries compared with others. What do you see when you look at across the world?
Yes, so there certainly are differences from country to country. When we look at Europe, first of all, Germany, I would say, are certainly Germany, sort of Switzerland, are certainly leading in terms of being much more advanced with their recycling and the types of materials that they will accept. I think within the UK, as I mentioned, we have lots of councils recycling different materials, and it does cause well, there's just differences. I personally don't live in Shropshire, where the company is based, and everybody that works in Shropshire, they're able to recycle food waste at home with a caddy bin. I don't have that where I live. So there are differences. Sorry, we've got a
Okay.
meeting next door. So yes, there are certainly differences, and we do see that certain areas are more advanced. When we look towards Australasia, we see that compostability is sort of more key there currently, but there's certainly a lot of drive to move recycling forward, and change that, transition those materials essentially from more of a compostable solution to a recyclable solution. So we do see differences when we look at the US. That's a mixture of recyclability and composting. So it really just depends on the region of the world as to what that product will be at the end of life in terms of how it needs to be disposed of.
Just out of interest, talking about the different markets, do you consciously promote certain recycling materials in other countries? Because as you mentioned, in Australasia, they're more tuned into compostable packaging. So is that something that's at the forefront of your mind?
We certainly try to target materials to a specific audience, and I think with the teams that we have set up in these different areas, they also understand the local market and what that demand is. So we certainly see that in certain areas, pockets of different ranges of our materials are more popular. But I think with any business of a certain size, you will see changes depending on local market, in terms of the types of materials that people are producing and the demand that's generated from customers as well.
Absolutely. And just finally, did you make a conscious effort to brand your sustainable packaging differently, as a means of communicating to your customers and to consumers this is environmentally friendly?
Yeah, so we have our materials sit under our Earth Packaging brand, which I mentioned in the PowerPoint presentation. And we certainly look to market those materials so that there is a difference between a commodity product, which there is still demand for in certain areas, and the more sustainable materials. So we do make an effort to differentiate them and make it clear when we're speaking to a customer, what is it that they are looking for, and then we can tailor and sort of talk through the solutions that are suitable for their needs.
It's very interesting because when we talk about sustainable, environmentally friendly packaging, I know that there's this association with green. Just green colours on packaging might signify to a consumer that this is better for the planet. So it's just interesting how that works and the psychology of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we use green actually within our logo and our company colours. But I think in terms of us as a business, we use the Earth Packaging logo to just very clearly identify that this is natural materials that are suitable for either recycling or composting or a biodegrading process.
thank you so much, Rachel, for taking the time to speak with me at Bakery Live. If anyone has any questions, please do reach out to her.
Thank you very much.